Sorry. So sorry. Hold on. It's already on screen.
Aaron, that's the way they manage. We'll do like 2 minutes, like 2 minutes. All right, we're gonna get started in about 2 minutes. We're just making sure our press all have a chance to get into the room.
Can y'all move in a little? I want your beautiful face.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, Mary Ann's on this side. There's some seats. Come on, let's go.
You didn't need to see it. You want me to go put the mic on up there?
Yeah. Do you mind if I put this like right under your tripod?
I don't mind.
It's a friendly stage.
Okay. Yeah, please. If anyone has any mics or anything that you want to set on the podium, please feel free. Okay. All right. All right. Good morning, everyone. My name is Dylan Nettles. I am Policy and Advocacy Director for the ACLU of Alabama, and I am joined by members of the Alabama Voting Rights Coalition and concerned citizens to speak out against House Bill 209, which was just passed by the House Constitution, Campaigns, and Elections Committee with a favorable report. We are here to call all Alabamians' attention to this bill, which threatens the tradition of voter education and assistance that civic groups, churches, and other volunteers have been engaged in for many years in our state's history. The Alabama Voting Rights Coalition's mission is to build collective power to advance voting rights in Alabama, and we are made up of organizations working throughout communities in Alabama to educate voters, recruit election workers, and create policy and legislation to protect access to the ballot. These individuals contribute their time to meet voters where they are and ensure they have the information and tools to participate in our democracy. Before I introduce them, I want to first thank Representative Adeline Clark of House District 97 for joining us in opposing this legislation. Representative Clark, I welcome you to start us off with some remarks.
Thank you very much, and good morning to everyone. I would like to, first of all, thank and applaud everyone who attended today's meeting of the Constitution Campaigns and Elections Committee to speak out against House Bill 209. As representatives of various organizations stated during the public hearing on the bill, it is truly a form of voter intimidation and voter suppression. And I am just ecstatic that you all came from far and wide. I've got members from my district, way down from Mobile, Alabama, who came here to Montgomery to oppose this bill. And I thank them for the sacrifice that they made today. I offered an amendment that would have allowed nonprofit 501(c) organizations to continue the work that they do out in the field at election time. And that includes helping to register people to vote and also helping them to vote absentee. As Mary Ann Merchant, who is one of my constituents, mentioned in the committee meeting, it can be a confusing process. If you've ever voted absentee, it gives you pause. If nothing else, you've got to take the time to figure out which envelope to put in which envelope and which envelope. And when you have to complete the affidavit on the outside of the last envelope, the outer envelope, no, that's not that. See, here I am getting confused about it. At any rate, it is a confusing process, as Ms. Merchant said, and she witnessed firsthand working for the city of Mobile, how many absentee ballots get rejected because they're not completed sufficiently. And the League of Women Voters is going to address that. And Representative Hassel has carried a bill, and I'm co-sponsoring that bill, that would allow absentee voters the opportunity to cure their affidavit if one is submitted incorrectly. Hopefully that bill will get a favorable report in committee. In the meantime, the bill, as Mr. Nettle said, did get a favorable report in committee today. So what's next? The bill will move to the full House of Representatives, where all 105 members of the House will vote on the bill. The time is now for everyone to contact your state representative and go ahead and call your state senator while you're at it and let them know that you are adamantly opposed to House Bill 209. It does not help to advance the cause of voting rights in the state of Alabama. It suppresses the vote. And we do not need that. We need more people in this day and time to vote. We're having a difficult enough time as my generation and my parents' generation die out. We're having a difficult time getting young people involved in the process. We need to encourage them to vote, and we need to encourage them to help others to vote, whether it be absentee or in person. So this particular piece of legislation is not good. And I hope again that you will contact your state legislators to let them know that you do not approve of House Bill 209. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Clark. Next up, we'll have members, excuse me, we'll have members of the Alabama Voting Rights Coalition and concerned citizens to speak in opposition on the bill briefly and, of course, take questions at the end. So next, we'll have President of the Metro Montgomery NAACP, Mr. Rayford Mack.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Reverend Rayford Mack, but to get started, this is really personal, but I want to make everything clear. I really love this country. I love the fact that I'm an American citizen. While serving in the Navy, it gave me a great opportunity to see the world. I traveled to Spain, France, Portugal, Denmark, England, Saudi Arabia, Africa. And I'm telling you all this to let you know, even with all of the problems in America, this still is the greatest country in the world. But today I want to talk with you about pushback. Even though our governor and some of our state legislatures and local elected officials deny that structural systemic racism is an issue in our country and state, the United States still is the greatest democracy in the world. Our country is called the melting pot of the world. If you come to America, you can work and you can get where you want to go, where all people are created equal and have the same rights and entitlement. The problem is, though, or inconsistency is that America is that some people want the democracy. They don't want a multiracial democracy. Some white people, some people have become fearful of not having control of all levels of government with the changing of the demographics in our country. America has a pushback problem. Some Americans pushed back when Negroes were given freedom. Some Americans pushed back so hard they fought a civil war to hold on to prevent somebody from having God's inalienable rights. Every time America attempts to live up to our creed and true calling to create a multiracial democracy, we have a faction that truly believe America is only for a certain group of people. When the Negroes and other minorities began to participate in the political process in America, the Reconstruction period after the Civil War was short-lived. The pushback came in the form of the Ku Klux Klan, They use tactics and terror, intimidation to suppress and deny the right to vote. The KKK pushed back most of the advancement that were gained by Negroes after the Civil War. The Civil Rights Acts of 1964, the Voting Rights of 1965. A segment of America has always pushed back. We have factions in our country who truly dedicated to denying us our inalienable rights. For instance, the case of Shelby versus Holder. Our own U.S. Supreme Court pushed back against us. In the High Court decision, they wrote that it's unfair to target certain states. Our Chief Justice stated that people have changed. You hear that? People have changed, and they should be held accountable for other people's past actions. Within hours of that ruling, the Supreme Court ruling, voter suppression laws just rampant. Now is the time to be real and get real. The issue of race has never been dealt with in our country. Every time the issue of race becomes an issue, our solution is to create a commission for this or a commission for that. People, it's time to get real and be real. America has a pushback problem when it comes to having a functional multiracial democracy. A section of America has not gotten over or forgotten the fact that the people elected an African American to the office of president. The pushback came in the form of Tea Parties and a number of hate groups, militias increased. Why are we here today? We're here today because a faction in America don't want to have a multiracial democracy. We are here today because a faction in America don't want to have a multiracial democracy. We are here because 400 years later, we are still fighting for voting rights. We are here because our rights to have free and fair elections. We are here because we want to preserve our system of democracy and this republic. We are here because the struggle of equality in America still exists. We are here because America has a pushback problem. Because we have a pushback problem, we have to fight against the pushback. When we fight, we win. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mack. And I know it gets warm under these lights, so for our guests, please, if you feel you need to sit at any point, do so. Next, we'll have Kathy Jones, president of Alabama's League of Women Voters.
Thank you. So today was just the start. We're not going anywhere. We're going to continue to fight and oppose HB 209. The League of Women Voters of Alabama is dedicated to supporting voters in Alabama, and we believe that democracy works better when everyone votes. HB 209 is a very, very bad bill, which would criminalize helping citizens be able to vote absentee. And just to remind folks, this bill will violate Section 208 of the Voting Rights Act, as well as the Americans with Disabilities Act. And Alabamians have very few options for voting in elections. A registered voter can go to the polls on election day, but if they're not able to make it to the polls on election day, they can go vote absentee. That's the only other option. And I brought this form here today to show you. I don't know if you can tell, this is really small print. It's dense. It's got 9 excuses, and you have to meet these 9 excuses or you cannot vote absentee. There's also a lot of legalese in here. This is what's confusing. The whole process is confusing. If you don't complete it correctly, then you don't vote absentee. All right, so make no mistake, absentee voting is not early voting. This is not, I've heard our prior Secretary of State say that it is. We do have early voting. No, we don't. We have absentee voting. In Alabama, a voter can only vote absentee, as I said, if they mark the 9 predefined excuses. The absentee ballot application and the affidavit envelope forms are small font. They're densely written, generally confusing, and it's easy to make a mistake that will mean that your ballot will not be opened or counted. The requirement for when a copy of a voter's ID or a witness is required, familiarity with the federal laws which protect disabled or incapacitated voters, and knowing your mailing address. I didn't point out, every county in this state has a different mailing address. So if we're helping people who cross county lines and they're over from a different county, I'm from Madison, we help people from all around surrounding counties, we have to be able to pull the right form because it has to be mailed to the correct mailing address. So all of these things combined with understanding the voting rights restoration laws, which, by the way, they happen to put on the back of this form, which is a two-sided form, they list all the moral turpitudes for someone who's voting while in prison. A lot of people are like, why is this here? That's one of the excuses. It says, I'm currently incarcerated in prison or jail, and I don't have a moral turpitude conviction. So you got to figure all this out before you can vote absentee. So, this is why groups like the League of Women Voters and other groups up here are helping people today to try to vote absentee. And non-governmental voter education and assistance are vital to seniors, the disabled, homebound, and immune compromised, as well as everyone else. And it's very distressing that HB 209 would make felons of our Good Samaritans who are passionate in their desire to make people to help people participate in our most democratic process, which is voting. And House Bill 209 would incite fear and confusion for our most vulnerable and underserved voters. And Alabama's county level elections have proven repeatedly to be free of voter fraud. And at its core, HB 209 is a tool for voter intimidation and voter suppression, and it's meant to make absentee voting inaccessible for a large number of people who are actually legally entitled to vote absentee. And so that is why we, the League of Women Voters, strongly opposes HB 209, and which would also, if it passes, would violate constitutionally protected rights of voters. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Jones. Next, we'll have Dr. Joe Reed of the Alabama Voter Education and Registration Alliance.
Thank you very much, and certainly it's a pleasure for me to be with all these good Alabama citizens who are against this bad bill. It's a very bad bill. I want to commend the legislators who spoke against this bill. You did a good job, and you count yourself well. You made all of us proud. I'll be very, very brief. I long for the day when the Alabama legislature will try to do something to help people rather than hurt folks. I've been coming to here now for some 63 years. Yeah, some 63 years. And it's always get them, sock them, hit them, kill them, knock them off. It's that attitude, that's the culture we have in the Alabama legislature. But I want to join those who believe, and I believe to be a fact, this bill is unconstitutional. It violates the Voting Rights Act, and I think they'll pass it. I don't think the Alabama legislature, their goal is to pass this bill. And we just ready to get ready. And what we need to do is start putting money together to go to court. When I work for the Alabama Education Association, I have a rule. I get up every morning looking for somebody to sue. And let's all join hands together and be prepared to fight this bill in court. I think the gentleman from Dothan, I know a lot of good testimony, but I was struck by the fact that the veteran said how much it would cost him to get a ride just to cast his ballot. As a veteran, I'm a veteran too.
Yes.
And it struck me, and I say you did a good job on that. But let's get ready. Let's get ready to go to court. They will pass this bill because that's the attitude, that's the culture, and that's the commitment they've already made. And the legislators who are against it, just keep voting no. Keep voting no. But what we need to do is sue.
Thank you, Dr. Reed. Next, we will have Commissioner Sheila Tyson of Jefferson County District 2. Commissioner.
Thank you so much for allowing me to speak. I'm here representing Jefferson County District 2, my constituents. they are very concerned about this bill. Number one, you would put something on the absentee ballot giving people that's incarcerated a right to vote that does not have a moral to charge, but then you would turn around and pass a law to prevent them from even voting. Only in Alabama that you would ever see something so foolish. It's an insult to the taxpayers. We pay taxes. It's our right to vote. But they are taking every right, chipping away at it, chipping, to where we will not have anything left in any other means for us to represent ourselves here at the Capitol. I have never been so shamed in my life to travel the way I travel and have to become up to bills like this when people ask you, are you from Alabama? Oh, it's do they still have slavery? People actually think that because of the laws here in this state. I plead not only with the citizens that are against this bill, I plead for the citizens that's for this bill to change their heart and their mind. Because sooner or later this bill will affect them. We're not the only one doing absentees. It was over 60,000 people voted absentee, Republican and Democrat in Jefferson County. So if you think this is just going to hurt us, you're sadly mistaken. So make sure when you dig in a grave for us that you don't slip up in it. We got to fight because we ain't going back. You got to stand for what you believe in. You cannot let this happen and not say nothing. And I know people say she's a public official. I'm a voter. I've been a voter ever since I was 18. And I'm going to continue to be a voter. But if I can't assist my sister, my aunt, where does that leave me? Am I a citizen? Do that leave me in a place of democracy where I have a right to assist my family members? I'm a veteran. I go help veterans during voting time. I can't help them anymore. I have more than 38% nursing homes, Section 8, public housing in my district. Don't you know that we need assistance within my district, within that county, black and white? Let's fight.
Thank you, Commissioner. These will be our last two speakers coming up here next, just a signals for our patient press. Thank you. And next we'll have Reverend Richard Williams at Metropolitan United Methodist Church.
Good morning to all. I'm reminded, because of my Christian faith, of Luke, the 5th chapter, verses 17 through 39. And I won't belabor the point to read the passage to you, but it's a story about when there was a person that was ill who needed some help. And they took the man to the roof, and they opened the roof for the man so they could meet Jesus. An example of our work to be called to help our neighbor. HB 209 defines and says that I cannot help my brother or sister, and even makes note that I must have a relative or be a bloodline to the individual. Well, as a Christian, I believe all that are present are here, that we are part of the same family, and the same way that your heart is beating, that we should show you love and care. The idea that you could print a free document off of the internet and to help someone with a sheet of paper, and from that sheet of paper, you could be redefined as a felon. My God, today, where have we found ourselves? And then to know that civic organizations, churches, and volunteers, and doing merely community service would be an action that would be considered a felony action. We have much work that needs to be done today. I stand not only on the biblical text, but I stand on humanity and moral consciousness, understanding that organizations should still be able to be trusted messengers, as we have done in public health crises, as we have done to make persons aware of the many issues that are in our community. We can't define when we want leaders to serve. We need to be empowered to continue to help our neighbors to be able to merely fill out a free form from a government website. And from that government website form, to be able to help them to read the merely small print and for them to be able to understand what the document actually means. If we know our literacy rates in the state of Alabama, then clearly we know HB 209 is not helping everyone.
Thank you, Reverend Williams. Finally, we'll have, to close this out, Mr. Ronald James from Black Voters Matter.
Good morning.
Morning.
Brother Reed, I don't believe this thing should be called HB 209. It should be entitled BS 209. Dr. King said, best itself, our lives begin to end the day that we become silent about the things that matter. If you've heard out here lately, you've heard the horns of the people, the grassroots organizations in this state of Alabama voicing their opinion in opposition of this BS 209. If my brother Cliff Albright was here with us this morning, he would have said that today is not that day. There may be a day that we sit back and allow Jim Crow legislation to be passed down and villainize the grassroots organizations, which are the backbone of progressive movement in this state of Alabama. But today is not that day. You ought to look at somebody and say that today is not that day. There may be a day that comes and we idly sit back and allow the people of this state to continue to suffer, to be oppressed, to hold back their opinions and have access denied from them being granted access to the ballot. But today is not that day. I'm talking to the people of Alabama who's sitting at home, that may be watching this in their televisions, seeing it on your phones, who's maybe hearing it over your sound waves. I'm telling you that today is not that day, Alabama. Today we are going to stand up and we're going to fight back. So I urge a call of action to everybody in the state of Alabama to get on your phones, to run to your offices, to call your legislations, call your delegations, and tell them to vote no for BS 209. I'm calling to you and I'm telling you and I'm urging you to call your neighbors and tell your friends to urge the legislation, the people who say that they claim to represent the voices of the people who put them in their seats, the people who say that they represent our minds and our thoughts and the things that matter to us the most. I'm telling you now that when you go to the floor, that you need to vote no to HB 209. A vote for yes for HB 209 means that you vote yes for your resignation when it comes for your next election cycle. A vote yes for 209 means that you're saying, yes, I have no respect for the people who are the backbones of the political movement here in Alabama. That I have saying yes, that I have no respect for the people who fought, walked, marched, and stood in lines to vote, who can no longer do that, so they need the assistance of absentee ballots. You are saying that I'm saying yes, that when it comes to the next election cycle, that I will see the biggest movement, the biggest mobilization, the biggest organizing of people who will remove me from my seat because I no longer represent what I said that I represent for these people. Today is not that day. God bless you. Vote no for 209 because it's not right. It's not constitutional. And as Brother Reed said, we're ready to fight. We're ready to take it all the way to the Supreme Court once again to voice our opinions here in the state of Alabama. God bless you guys.
Well, you heard it here first. Today is not that day. So while House Bill 209 has unfortunately been given a favorable report today, you will be certainly hearing more from all of us as this bill progresses. We want to thank you all for your attendance today. And if you have any follow-up questions, we can take those now. Also, I'm sure a number of our guests here will be happy to take individual interviews with any of our members of the press. Maddie?
So there was an amendment added to provide affirmative defense for those who do receive assistance filling out their ballot if they can't physically do it themselves. Why do you guys not accept that exception?
I'll allow other folks to speak on this as well if they would like to, but what I think I'll just say about that exception is it's not really an exception at all. What it tells us is that we have to then allow for prosecutors to contemplate if they then want to in fact bring still criminal charges, felony charges against folks like those who are standing here today, who are, again, as I said in my opening remarks, meeting the voters where they are. They are doing the work to get out, to educate voters, to ensure that they have the information and tools in hand that they need to vote. We would like to be certainly seeing more of that action and activity from our elected officials, from those who are tasked with that in their government agencies. But these folks are filling in the gap and doing the work, and to pose that they would face any criminal penalty at all, rather than killing this bill as it absolutely should be, is still honestly offensive. I think I can speak for us all when I say that.
Yes.
Because you still will be charged.
Yes.
It's not stopping you from being charged. You will still be charged with a felon where people are being murdered, are being charged with that charge. But then you're gonna try to put me in jail with murderers because I helped someone fill out an absentee ballot. You know, that's garbage.
Can someone summarize the purpose of this bill, HB?
Put us in jail.
What does the legislators supposed to benefit the vote?
I think this question we would like to hear from the sponsor to better understand. I mean, I know we just heard in the committee, but I don't feel any clearer. Well, she's opposed to it.
You know what the bill does.
Just what the speaker stated so eloquently during the public hearing.
They said it was for prevent ballot harvesting was their two words. It says, no, that
And
was
it's not even an issue in Alabama. We have very few instances of voter fraud in the state of Alabama.
This is a very live press conference. Any other questions, Fred? Yes, sir.
So we've seen like in Florida, instance where the voting laws have been changed, cause confusion, and police go to the houses of these people to arrest them. So could this bill endanger specifically people with disabilities? Because there have been reports that police tend to kill those with disabilities at a higher rate than others. So could this bill potentially have that impact?
Yeah, we're very concerned about the impact that this bill would have on voters with disabilities, and you've probably heard during the committee public hearing voters speaking about their concerns. Those who may have some of those challenges, I'll allow for any of you here who may want to speak to that concern. I don't know, Mrs. Manuel or anyone, would you like to speak more? Either of you like to speak on the concern about voters with disabilities? Yes, sir. Oh, yeah,
Yes, definitely. This bill will be detrimental to the blind community and disabilities as a whole. As it currently stands, all the hoops we have to jump through to vote now is really a barrier to our community. But you're placing additional barriers that will keep us from having the rights as every other individual across the United States. We vote these legislators into place to make things better, not only for the disabled community, but to everyone. But as it stands now, what I saw earlier today, they don't care. It's all about getting the agenda across. And it's looking over the disabled community, the elderly, and anyone else who wants the opportunity to cast an independent vote during the time of the elections. So yes, definitely, it will affect the disabled community tremendously. Thank you.
I'd like to add one thing I forgot.
I just want to mention for our press quickly, I think that there's Miss Barbara Manuel from the Alabama Federation for the Blind. Is that correct?
National Federation of the
Blind.
And League of Women Voters.
And the League of Women Voters. Thank you, Ms. Manuel.
One thing that Barbara reminded me of is, we've been really looking into understanding the barriers to voting for people with disabilities. And if you look under the CDC statistics, 1 in 3 Alabamians is considered disabled. So this affects over 18, adults over 18. 1 in 3 Alabamians over 18 is disabled. So, you know, you look at the number of people, this is not a partisan issue. This is basically a human rights issue.
Any other questions?
I would just like to ask the representatives who are opposed to this, have we tried to appeal to the human decency of the proponents of this? You know, I mean, can you tell them, look at these people? Can you appeal to that to them? I know they're rigid in it, but it seems to me that somewhere in Alabama, and you talk about 63 years, that we can get some decency and people with conscience to say this is wrong.
What about the 32 new representatives we got down here?
Call them.
And I didn't, you know, I done emailed them too.
People, the die is cast. Those folks have gotten together. Their minds are made up. They're determined to undermine our vote, split it, dilute it any way they can. All they got to do is meet with the Attorney General and anybody else and read Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. They'll know that this bill is going to harm the voters and violate the Voting Rights Act. These folks don't have more conscience. We're going to conscience. Where is it? All of this bad stuff they're passing down here, it's been that way. I promise you, I've been coming here for 63 years, witnessing it. And you do the same stuff over and over again. There will be a few, but not a majority. They've already planned it. It's on. What we got to do is lock our hands together and fight and thank these legislators who voted against it.
So to answer your question, sir, leading up to the statewide 2022 election, I was incensed when former Secretary of State Merrill released a statement saying that if anybody touched a voter's absentee ballot, that it would be a violation and that they could go to jail. That I just thought that was so unfair. I have 5 or 6 senior apartment complexes in my district, and I get calls from these voters asking for help. I refer them to the League of Women Voters. I refer them to the NAACP. And to tell you the honest to goodness truth, I have gone personally to help some of these individuals who feel so strongly about exercising their right to vote. And so I introduced a bill. I think it is House Bill 100. I'd have to look back and see the number. Is that correct? I thought the solution to the problem was to introduce legislation that would allow absentee voters to designate a person of their choice to assist them with their absentee voting. I think that's a simple enough solution. But instead, House Bill 209 was introduced. It was in the making all along. My House Bill 100 is dead on arrival, unfortunately, although I see it as a perfect solution to this problem. We try.
Keep trying, keep speaking up.
Thank you, Representative Clark. And thank you all for attending today. Thank you, press, for your questions and just being here. And of course, thank you to you concerned citizens who showed up today to express yourselves and speak to your lawmakers. And we'll see you again soon. Thank you all.
Thank you all.